Hey guys, this is DJ Cade, back once again like a Renegade Master, and I'm sorry I'm squished way up in the corner of the screen here, but there's a reason for that. As you can tell from my lovely assortment of badges over here, the Mirror Cup has just been announced, and basically what it is it is a way for tournament organizers and players to revisit various cups. All of the cups from Boulder, Twilight, Tempest, Kingdom, Nightmare, Rainbow, Jungle, and even the Season 1 regionals. So in case you just happen to live in a smaller community and you haven't had a chance to make it to any of these tournaments, say there was low participation in the Boulder Cup, or very few people from your area, or nobody happened to go to regionals, or say you just want to be able to practice all the different cups. This is going to be a great meta to do that because any of the rule sets are in play. It's all up to the tournament organizer to kind of choose which rules they want to go by. And since there are so many different rule sets and move sets, and there are so many different viable Pokemon, and especially with PvP getting bigger and bigger now with some more of the updates and more YouTubers and everything growing as it is, I kind of thought, well, this would be a really good cup for new players to get in on the ground floor, because we're just at the end of Season 1. Players can kind of explore all the different strategies and really get themselves diversified in a lot of different metas before going into Season 2 fresh. And you know, older players will be able to just reuse things, but as a newer player, I kind of thought to myself, well, you know, if I was somebody who was just starting in on this fresh and I was looking at all the different cups and all the different metas that were being offered in the Mirror Cup, essentially, which Pokemon would not only be the most used but also the most relevant across all the cups. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to figure out how many times each of the top Pokemon are going to be used throughout the metas, across the various 8 metas, and we're going to add up their battle score. As you can see, this number right here, we're going to add up their battle score as we go along so you can get an idea of just how strong these Pokemon are based on their number of appearances, because a lot of Pokemon in these rule sets are going to have repeat appearances. Some Pokemon might only be useful in one particular cup, others might be useful in 3 or 4. So that's what I'd like to kind of explore today, because I haven't stopped to figure this all out yet. And I'd kind of like to know, not only for myself, but also for anybody else who is just starting to get into the game and just wants to get into PvP with the Mirror Cup, which Pokemon are going to be the most valuable investments for you, not only for this Cup, but also for every single future meta going forward into Season 2, most likely. And as far as how we're going to rate the top Pokemon from each meta, I don't really have any hard and fast rules for this, because there's been a lot of change-ups, there's been a lot of shake-ups, there's been a lot of various things that have been tweaked as far as new moves being added, new Pokemon being added. And so for a lot of the older cups, especially the ones I didn't participate in and I didn't know much about, I'm going to make some guesstimates. But I will try to apply just about everything I know related to the newer cups so that I can give you an idea of what is all relevant. Because I thought about going like with the top 10 for each one. For each cup, but that doesn't really count every single meta-relevant Pokemon, and certainly not some of the top counters I've seen on PvPoke, like some great meta-relevant Pokemon that have been ranked at like number 13 or 14, but still do amazing on top teams. So you can't really just go with like a hard and fast rule with like a top 10. If I would have done that, I would have been cutting off a lot of Pokemon. If I would have done like a top 20, I would have been adding tons and tons of Pokemon to this list. And as you can see, I've only actually got spaces for 45 Pokemon here that you can see on the screen. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to condense this, if I possibly can, into a top 45. I'm going to see where everything ranks. And so the first thing I'm going to do here is head over to the Boulder Cup rankings just to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like now that we can apply the modern day updates to it. So as you can see from the rankings here, Skarmory is still going to be a top threat just like he was the first time around. But Medicham is going to rise on the rankings, of course, with Power Up Punch. Once we get Swampert, that Hydro Cannon is going to make him the best good mud boy, absolutely. And then Bronzong with Bulldoze is going to move really far up the list as well. Gallade, I'm not sure if Gallade was around for the Boulder Cup, but that is a huge addition as well, jumping up to number 5. Jirachi is also coming to the Boulder Cup. If you were one of those people that were able to go to GoFest this year, you will have a little bit of an advantage in the Boulder Cup simply because you will have access to that Jirachi. What else do we see? Torterra is also a newer Pokemon, I believe. I don't think that one was around for the Boulder Cup. I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. Again, I wasn't really paying attention at this time, but Hitmonchan obviously is going to be back. Gliscor, or Gliscor, I'm not sure, is finally going to be usable again. Lucario also with Power Up Punch is going to make the list. And then we've got Wishcash, another Mud Boy, but probably not as relevant as Swampert is going to be, and then Relicanth. Claydol could see some usefulness, and then we start getting down into Toxicroak, so we're at a battle ranking of 79. So what we're going to do for this category, since I don't really know exactly how it's going to shake out, is we're just going to take everything from number 1 probably all the way down to number 10 here with Lucario. We'll throw in things like Relicanth, Claydol, and Toxicroak, and maybe we'll throw in Quagsire because Quagsire's always been a very strong Pokemon. And what we're going to do is update the list below me, so this is no longer a white space, so we can get the rankings started. Alright, there we go, the list is updated, and I don't know if this list is going to accurately reflect the meta. It's still very, very early in the game. People are still speculating. People are still just trying out battles for everything. So we'll see how accurate this is, and we will move on to the Twilight Cup in the meantime. Alright, so next is the Twilight Cup, and this is a cup that I really don't honestly have a lot of experience with. I'm going to learn a lot more about it as we go along. But from what I'm seeing here, there's actually a pretty good spread among the top Pokemon. Like from 98 to 94, that's not too much of a difference. It seems like all of these Pokemon can kind of hang with each other and do very well. It doesn't seem like there's one sort of juggernaut like a Vigoroth or something like that that sort of dominates this meta, and it seems like there's a lot of familiar faces that I've seen in other cups that are very powerful, and a lot of things that could be powerful even down below 13 or 14%. Things like Togekiss with Charm might be an absolute powerhouse. I've heard people talking about Quillfish, and I know Sableye is also relevant in some other instances. So also Nidoqueen gets Earth Power, so that might move up a little bit further. So there's a lot of good Pokemon. It's going to be really, really hard for me to make a list with these Pokemon here. It's just going to be incredibly tough. So what I'd like to do for this, like, since I honestly don't know how all of these are going to actually perform in the meta, how relevant each one of these are going to be, which ones are going to be phased out by playtesting, etc., what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my best guess at some of the ones that are relevant. Like all of the ones that are at least 90% and above are going to stay on the list for the most part. And then as far as other things that will go onto the list, I'm going to include oh man, I think I'll include Togekiss and maybe Sableye for future reference. Nidoqueen is getting down there, but who knows? Nidoqueen could honestly be really good as well. Once we start getting below 20, then you're getting into some of the off-meta picks here. So I don't know. That like for this one, I think I'm just going to go with at least the top 12, and I'm going to add Togekiss and Sableye in there as well, and update the list. Alright, and our list is updated, and as you can see, Toxicroak manages to appear in both the Boulder and the Twilight Cup. So because of that, he's got 2 appearances, and as a result, we've added both of his battle ratings in each of the cup into a 174, which has allowed Toxicroak to take an early lead over the rest of the competition, but this list is going to fill up very quickly, and stuff is going to start getting bumped off the list as we go. So we're just going to jump right into the next cup, the Tempest Cup, and see which ones take the list or which ones make a repeat appearance. Okay, so taking a look at the Tempest Cup, right away I'm seeing that Tropius is still the dominant force. I mean, if you haven't gotten yourself overseas to pick up a Tropius, then, you know, or gotten one from somebody who got one in whatever means, you know, then you're not going to have the Tropius for this cup. Now, in my area, my tournament coordinator doesn't allow any known spoofers to come to the tournament, so basically nobody there has a Tropius. So in our town, when we had our Tempest Cup, we didn't have anybody with a Tropius in our town. So it was kind of an interesting meta without Tropius in it to see what people brought. Definitely a lot of Abomasnows. But Swampert is going to climb right up to number 2 with that Hydro Cannon. He is going to be an absolute beast and is absolutely going to show up more than once on this list. Lapras is also going to be a very strong contender, which will make repeat appearances. Abomasnow, we're going to put him in there. Quagsire, Lantern, Steelix, absolutely. Piloswine. And look at the battle ratings are still in the 90s here. We're still in the 94, 93. Glalie wasn't really used much from what I can remember, but Glalie does have Shadow Ball, which is really interesting. Skarmory, once again. Cloyster, I don't remember too many people using a Cloyster, just not an incredibly diverse moveset. But Wishcash, that Legacy Magneton, I think Wishcash is just unfortunately going to be just completely bodied by Swampert in a lot of these rankings. So unfortunately, I'm going to leave Wishcash off just in favor of Swampert as the Mudboy of choice. And especially because Wishcash's moveset isn't very diverse. Magneton, we're going to have to put Legacy Magneton on the list. That Thundershock, Magnet Bomb, and Discharge, that double Legacy with those 2 Electric-type moves, man, you really need that, but it is a strong contender. It's something you're going to have to watch out for either way. Frostlass, I can remember being a great pick. And now we're getting down to Celio, Altaria. Altaria not being surprisingly dominant in this meta, but I can still remember a lot of people using it. That's the weird thing. I still remember a lot of people having tournament coverage with that Altaria. And even though it was just so weak, but then again, it does get pretty much beaten out by everything on this list, doesn't it? Like, I mean, anything with ice-type attacks, maybe, like, even Swampert's gonna take it out. Like, it's just, I don't know if I can put Altaria on this list. And I know that's a hard cut to make, but should Torterra go on the list? Now, I did put Torterra in already, so would I give him another appearance on this list and give Altaria none? I think, this is a really tough one, and I'm sorry, this is just me thinking here. And like Magnezone, do I put Magnezone on this list? Magnezone could do a lot against this meta and is also going to appear on many of the other lists, but he's down at an 86%. So I think at this point what I'm going to do as far as this list is concerned is put everything on there from Tropius all the way down to at least Skarmory to start out with. And then as far as anything else after that, I don't think Cloister was used a whole lot, but I think Magneton will make the list. Frostlass will make the list. And Altaria, I think he just gets beaten out by too much. Like, even though people used him, I think they didn't really use him to great success in this tournament. Because I know that Altaria does so well in so many other tournaments and so many other different metas. And I want this list to fairly represent all of the top Pokemon and not give Altaria, you know, an extra edge based on, you know, like, just its ranking in this cup, even though it might not see any play in the meta whatsoever. That being said, though, I am going to help out Torterra here because if you don't have Tropius, if you exist in that kind of meta where you don't have a Tropius, then a Abomasnow and really Torterra are your only options as far as a Razor Leaf user, so they might see some play simply because a lot of people might not have that Tropius. So I'm going to add all of the Pokemon that I just talked about to this list. And once again, our list is updated, and as you can see, Swampert has really jumped up in the rankings. Skarmory, Frostlass, and Torterra, because I gave Torterra a little bit of an extra boost, has also really gone up in the rankings. And as you can see, you can start to see where some of the top Pokemon, even if they're only used in like 1 or 2 cups, are really going to shine as far as their ranking. Like Golbat and Tropius, the position that they're in, and things like Umbreon and Medicham are going to outlast other things on this list, like say Gliscor and Relicanth and the positions that they're in right now. So like, as we go further on into this list, there will be fewer and fewer repeats, but there will be more and more Pokemon that get bumped off this list potentially because, you know, we only have so much space on the screen. It's starting to look busy as it is, so we're going to try and keep this to a top 45. This is something that one of the rules I was thinking about. I didn't quite get that across to you guys in the beginning of the video. But why don't we just move on to a cup that I know a lot more about right now, and that is the Kingdom Cup. And right off the bat, I can tell you that these top 4 Pokemon are going to go onto the list, absolutely. Blaziken's going to move way up in the rankings, probably because of the Blast Burn and Blaze Kick. Where is Charizard on this meta? I know Charizard is here somewhere. Did he really move that far down because of his moves? Wow! Yeah, just having that Blaze Kick as that faster move has bumped Charizard way down there. That's kind of ridiculous. Where is he now? Man, oh man, I can't believe that. That's incredible. Like, I couldn't believe he would drop that much. Like, I'm gonna have to throw a bone to Charizard here on the graph just because I know he was powerful, and I know that some people are still gonna like using him either way. Some people are just used to certain Pokemon. This is a list that's kind of been all over the place, to be honest. A lot of the Pokemon, especially down below rank 20 here, they're not really that desirable in the meta, but some of the things can still be good. Like, I've still seen people play Melmetal to great effect, and other kind of bottom tier picks. So just from my own kind of experience, like learning this as really my first Silph Cup meta, I'm going to be putting Lucario, Lapras, Bastiodon, Altaria, Flygon, Steelix, Kingdra. I'm going to skip over Celio because I don't remember Celio being too much of a threat. Dragonair will go on this list. Garchomp, I really don't think I'll put Garchomp on there because I think the odds of people getting him are just going to be so low, and I don't see him popping up on any other lists as far as any of the other metas are concerned. I could be wrong. He could be lurking around on there somewhere. We could give him a shot. We'll see if he gets bumped off. If he does, he does. But anyways, Marowak is absolutely going to go on there, as well as Bronzong. He was an absolutely great pick for me in the Kingdom Cup. And anything besides that, as much as I would like to put Torkoal on there and even Probopass, he's really not ranking too highly on this list, and that could be because of the presence of Blaziken now with Blaze Kick and Blast Burn. That could be an incredibly huge threat in the meta, and it might also be the reason why Melmetal has dropped off. So I think I'm going to not put Melmetal on there because of that. I'm not going to put Probopass. I think Bronzong is about the only one that I am going to put on this list. So again, all the Pokemon from rank 1 through 8, and also Dragonair, Marowak, and Bronzong, and I think that's going to be the entirety of the list. Okay, so once again, our list is complete, and Lapras has taken a huge jump up the list. Swampert still hanging out there in second place, but Steelix going up, seeing some more usefulness, Bronzong seeing some more usefulness, and everybody so far is still holding on to the list, as far as the ones that we've chosen according to my twisted logic, or however you see it. But pretty soon we're going to start bumping some Pokemon off the list, and I'll keep track of what those are, but we're going to move on to the very next cup, which I'm going to select the Nightmare Cup for this one. And right away there's one thing about this list that really stands out, and that is Gardevoir, taking it away with 99.5% battle ranking. And the second place battle ranking coming in at a 94.4%. And honestly, the rankings drop off really quick. After Blaziken, it's down to 86% with Xatu. That's crazy. That Charm fast move is going to do a lot to affect this meta. I've already heard other people talking about it. As far as which Pokemon are going to do well overall in this meta, that's really hard to say. I mean, Claydol does have the new Earth Power, and where is he, my boy? Bronzong now has Bulldoze, but unfortunately that doesn't really help him in this meta too much. And at a battle ranking of only 83, he is not going to last on this list very long. So honestly, like, this is another meta that with so many changes, and not really just in terms of the number of changes, but just in terms of Gardevoir being such a beast in this meta, I'm really not sure how this is all going to play out. So what I would like to do is I'd like to kind of give a little nod to everything that's basically 90% and up. And everything else below that, I think, is going to be fairly risky. I think it's going to be fairly low. I mean, I remember Alolan Raichu being good. I can remember Raticate was okay, I remember, in the old meta, but with the Charm Fast move, Raticate's just going to be torn up. And then all the rest of these, probably not worth mentioning. So yeah, it's looking kind of dismal with that new Charm Fast move. I mean, just in this one case. But I think what we'll do is, I don't know, Alolan Raichu is not going to last too long with that 85, but what we'll do is we'll do the top, we'll do the top 12 Pokemon, because I remember Xatu being fairly effective against a lot of things, and we'll do everything from number 1 all the way to number 12, so we'll see how that goes in my rankings. So the list has been updated, and as you can see, Lucario has shot to the very top of the list, being seen in 3 different cups up to this point, and just the power of Lucario in those cups has made him one of the top Pokemon that you should look for already according to this list. Already you can see kind of what I was hoping would take shape as far as, you know, which Pokemon you're going to want to look for. You can see Lapras, Swampert, Skarmory, Umbreon, Skuntank, even things like Frostlass and Steelix. all be seeing a lot of use already. And then when you start looking into the ones that maybe have appeared in only one cup so far, you know, Medicham, Golbat, Gardevoir, if you just look for those Pokemon, you're going to have extremely strong picks in those cups. And we actually had 2 Pokemon get knocked off of the list. Gliscor, the one that I can't pronounce, and Relicanth. Those had rankings of 81.8 and 80.3 respectively, I should say. So if I see them on any future lists, maybe they'll go back up on the rankings. I don't know. I just know that we haven't been able to use Gliscor, I'm just going to call him that, for a long time. So I think other Pokemon are going to go up the list. We'll see other Pokemon bump some of the other single appearance Pokemon off the list. So let's just get into the next one. We're not going to get into regionals yet. Instead, we're just going to jump straight to the Rainbow Cup next. So this is a cup I don't need to talk too much about. I've just done a lot of preparation for it. I helped my girlfriend prepare, I helped myself prepare, and so I know a little bit about this. We haven't seen too many changes with the Jungle Cup because we haven't really seen the new movesets that have come out and the new Pokemon that have come out really haven't shifted things around too much, but there have been a few changes. Like Forretress, Venusaur, Quagsire, all still going to be really good. I'm not really sure why Ninetales is so high up on the list, really. I mean, with that Fire Spin and that Legacy Flamethrower, but Psyshock and Solar Beam, I'm not sure why those are the recommended moves, but that's really interesting. Meganium, Typhlosion, I know that Charizard was great in this cup, and then we have things like Raichu, which didn't really turn out to be that good. Things like Lapras. It's surprising how much these rankings have changed since the last time I've looked at the Rainbow Cup. So as far as what we're going to give these Pokemon and where we're going to put them on the list, which ones we're going to even incorporate into this list, obviously Forretress, Venusaur, Quagsire, and then Ninetales, I'll give him a chance. I'll give him a shot at this list. We'll see how he does. But just because he ranked so highly, I didn't know that was a thing, that Ninetales was ranking so highly in this cup. But we'll also put Meganium on there. As much as it puts Typhlosion up there, I just can't recommend it. I just can't put it up on this list. I know Charizard was there, but like Raichu, I think we can put Raichu on there. We will put Victreebel, we will put Kingdra, and the last one I think we'll put on here is actually Mantine. I know it ranks down there, I know it's not really one of the top picks, and I know that there's a lot of things in this cup that are good. We'll put Legacy Executor on there as well. We'll put Lapras on there as well, but I'll just update this list with everything that I'm thinking, and we'll just continue with it from there. Alright guys, so that one took me a while, and the list changed around a lot. We really bumped a whole ton of Pokemon off this list. Mantine, Togekiss, Sableye, Flygon, Xatu, Dragonair, Gallade, Alolan Marowak, Jirachi, Hitmonchan, Gliscor, and Relicanth, which were bumped off both already. But all of those Pokemon that I just mentioned, aside from the last two, all got bumped off the list that round. And man, it is just getting to be more and more brutal. As you can see, Lucario and Toxicroak still take the lead with 3 uses in the tournament cups so far. Lapras, Swampert, Quagsire, and Altaria. I didn't rank Altaria during the Tempest Cup, but if I would've, I wonder how this ranking would have played out. Everything probably would have been bumped down to that point. I can remember people saying that they were sick of Altaria at one point, but I know Altaria does come back for the other cups, so why don't we move on and let's just check out the Jungle Cup and see what we can add to the list. And of course, since we're all familiar with it at this point, we have Forretress, Vigoroth, Graveler, Noctowl, Caesar, which isn't really seeing a lot of use, Magnezone, Alolan Golem, Magneton, which some people have been using, Venusaur, which has essentially been a staple, Beedrill and Venomoth both see some use. Lantern and Wigglytuff both see some use. Heracross, Vespiquen, and after that, not a whole lot. I mean, I guess you could use Victory Bell, but he's really not too strong in the cup. And I'm not going to count Electivire. I think some people were experimenting with Electivire and Ice Punch, but I don't really think it turned out to be anything special. So we're going to basically stop at Vespiquen, and I'm going to apply all of these changes. And boy, my list of Pokemon is really getting long here, so here we go. And after a lot of rearranging, we finally reached this list. And again, Lucario is still topping the list. Forretress has moved up by a lot, and Lantern came up to take a new spot on this list as well. But you can start to see now just how many Pokemon are going to be useful in, say, only one cup versus multiple cups. If you go with any of the Pokemon that have a 2 next to their total number, then you're going to be doing pretty good as far as preparation for these upcoming cups are concerned. But some of you are probably thinking, well, what about this Pokemon? What about this Pokemon? What about, like, Altaria, you know? Well, I'm going to move over here really quick to show where the other Pokemon ended up as far as my rankings, all of the ones that got bumped off of the list. And Altaria is still hanging in there. I can guarantee he's going to jump up when we talk about the regional championships. And then we still got a lot of great picks like Blaziken and Magnezone. I'm not sure why Blaziken isn't more useful in some of the other cups. I guess time will tell as things go on. But these are still all great Pokemon to consider if you're considering looking for Pokemon for the Great League. So with that being said, why don't I just jump into it, and why don't I take a look at the regionals list real quick. Alright, so just at first glance, as you can see, like, a lot of the really strong Pokemon are going to solidify their positions here, and the regionals list is really what's going to make or break this list and kind of determine what gets bumped off in the end and what rises back up. So Azumarill, Medicham, Skarmory, there's the Altaria right there with a 95.5 ranking. We've got Swampert, Bastiodon, Jirachi is going to see a little bit more play, Lucario once again, and Wishcash being not the top Mudboy actually. It's going to be second place to Swampert. So Wishcash is a Pokemon that I left off of this list, probably unjustly, just because Swampert manages to stomp it in just about every scenario. But then we've got things like Bronzong and Tropius and Melmetal, which I didn't include from the Kingdom Cup. We've got Haunter, we've got Venusaur once again, Quagsire again, Steelix again, Toxicroak again, Charizard, an Alolan Marowak again, and Hitmonchan. And even things like Umbreon and Sableye are viable. Even Noctowl and Mantine. So I think this is a really tough list. I mean, I'm really not sure where to stop with this because somebody used Relicanth in the regionals to great success. I can't remember exactly what player it was, but he really did really well with Relicanth. And then as far as some of the other ones, Forretress maybe, Lapras, this is just such a long list, and I feel like, I mean, I'm really tired at this moment, and I'm up late enough. So why don't we just go and add just about everything? I'm thinking at this point, why don't we just add everything that we can to this list? If we get some Pokemon that make like 3 or 4 appearances, you know, or if we get a lot of Pokemon making 3 appearances, well, so be it. But in this case, I don't think that's a particularly bad idea, because as you can see, we've got a lot of Pokemon that are at least 90% or above, from Venusaur all the way up. Those are all at least 90% for their battle ratings, and as you go down, even stuff like Sableye in 23rd place is still ranked in an 88.4%. So I mean, a lot of these Pokemon are still viable, even down to stuff like Probopass, Victory Bell once again, Golbat, even Forretress. in this case could be useful. I do remember some people using Fortress, Lapras, Clefable. I guess the real question with this is, where do you stop? I mean, where is the last Pokemon that you would consider on this list? You know, what's the very final one? I think it's going to be Frostlass, actually, so why don't I do that? I mean, I don't know what's going to be relevant and what's going to be the top as far as like the rock, paper, scissors, as far as what develops in the new Season 1 regionals, but I have a feeling that just about everything on this list is going to be good. Obviously, if it doesn't make it into the top 40, or if it just doesn't rank high enough to make it onto the top 45 list that I have here on the main page, then it just doesn't. And we'll see what Pokemon make it into my final top 45 as far as which Pokemon you should be looking for the upcoming Mirror Cup. And that is it. That is it for my final rankings for all of the Pokemon that can be used in the Mirror Cup, and their general strength and how many times they're used in the various cups. As you can see, Lucario, Toxicroak, and Lantern run away with it, with 4 out of 8 appearances in each of the different cups. And in general, just a lot of other Pokemon that a lot of pro players could probably tell you are incredibly strong counters. Things like Skarmory, Swampert, Fortress, Azumarill, Lapras, Quagsire, Umbreon, Venusaur, Steelix, Frostlass, Bronzong, Victreebel, and then even with a lot of the Pokemon where they only see uses in 2 of the different cups, Medicham, Tropius, Golbat, Altaria, there's our Altaria finally, Bastiodon, and so on and so forth. And in case you guys were wondering what happened to the Pokemon that got bumped off of the list, here's how they ended up at the very end. So as you can see, if you've been playing this game for a while, if you've been playing in the Silk Road tournaments for quite a while, there are probably no real surprises here. You probably know a lot of these things already, but just in case you were wondering, just in case you were new to the whole scene, and you're just getting into this with the Mirror Cup, and you're wondering, well, there's all these different metas, like, which Pokemon should I go for? Like, which Pokemon are going to be useful and the strongest throughout the most of these metas? Well, this list is for you. Anything in these first 3 columns are going to be incredibly good bets as far as what to hunt for, and then anything else in the last 3 columns will also be really good as well. So yeah, I guess there isn't much more analysis to say beyond that, except I just wanted to do this experiment just to kind of see for myself which ones I should be looking for and which ones are overall the most important to have in terms of PvP. And you can absolutely bet that a lot of these Pokemon are going to carry over into Season 2 after the Mirror Cup is done. So I hope you got something out of all of this. I hope this was something that you could kind of use in some way, especially if you were a newer player. And, you know, while it didn't make any huge revelations for me or, you know, maybe for anybody else watching, I was just kind of curious to see how everybody ranked like this. So once again, until the next time, take care, you guys. I love you all. Peace.